Also, very excitingly, we'll have the great reveal soon of the, this is a Guru Rinpoche statue here. That's going to go up here on this altar after its consecration with Geshe's Zopa on the 7th of October in the afternoon, 2 to 4. And so a few of us have been prepping, as we say, this week. It takes quite a while to do the preparation. Yesterday afternoon, we did the consecration of everything that goes inside the statues, all the mantras, all the incense and so forth, all the items that people have brought in to include a bit of themselves into the statue. So that's all been consecrated. And our next Monday onwards, we'll be filling the statue. We'll have to get it filled. So if people have time and want to help out with that, I think from 1 o'clock on Monday, and then at least when the centre's open, obviously not during meditation on Tuesday morning. Oh, that's the other thing that's on Tuesday. Yeah. So anyway, if people just want to come and observe because you've never seen it happening, or if you want to participate, please, everyone's welcome. Spread the word. What time Monday would you do? I think 1 o'clock. I've got something on in the morning. Well, we have to finish it around by 5 for meditate for yoga. Yeah, we'll be here. Yeah. Yeah. So spread the word, and if you wish to come along and participate, that would be. It's a wonderful thing. It doesn't happen that very often. I asked somebody when the Tara statue, can you remember when that was consecrated? Before my time, actually. Before your time. So, yeah. So it's sort of like decades apart when these things happen. Yeah. So it doesn't happen very often. So if you're interested, intrigued, yeah, please come along. Also, Venerable Pekar mentioned, of course, for Geshe-la's visit, we want to have everything absolutely beautiful. So if people can come, maybe if you're coming next Friday, stay for the afternoon, or if people are able to come, please let who know. Maybe send an email to welcome at. Oh, the general cleaning. No, that's over. That's your department. So this is for the Gompa clean. I don't know whose department it is. Yeah. But I was wondering if maybe we have another email going on. We can talk. All right. That's all the announcements. So it's wonderful to have so many items that people brought in to be consecrated and then offered to the stupa. And yeah, I mean the statue. Sorry, Bunbury has a project to for a Kala Chakra stupa, so I keep thinking stupa statue, holy object. So they're going through the same process that will take longer. Okay. That one. No, it's not that one. Number 20. Yes, that one. I know they all have the same heading because we're so in the 7-point mind training, we're on point 3, and this is yeah, we're on the 3rd point. Let me just read out that verse. When the environment and its inhabitants overflow with unwholesomeness, transform adverse circumstances into the path of enlightenment, apply meditation immediately at every opportunity. The supreme method is accompanied by the 4 practices. So we'll see how far with that we get today. This is the 2nd line. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. It's exactly this page. Oh, that's the page I'm on. The 3rd point. Correct. Yeah. So So here we are on the great scope, the Mahayana. So we've gone through the lower scope and the middle scope. So on the Mahayana, using suffering to cherish others more than yourself. So here this is all, the whole point of the mind training is to turn our orientation out towards others. And as Lama Zopa Rinpoche says, problems give you the opportunity to train your mind in bodhicitta, the wish to become enlightened, in order to free all beings from suffering. So Lama Zopa Rinpoche would often say, wear your problems like beautiful earrings, like ornaments. So maybe if you don't wear earrings, maybe ring chains. And, you know, when we look at these Buddha images, this is what's called the Sambhoga Kaya aspect. For example, Shakyamuni Buddha didn't look this way walking around Bihar state way back 2,600 years ago. So it looked like a human being, or we can say today the Dalai Lama looks like, as he says, I'm a simple Buddhist monk. So it takes the aspect of a monk so that he can be a human to convey to us the teachings. However, Dalai Lama is seen as an emanation of Chenrezig, the Buddha of compassion. So Shakyamuni Buddha, this is what we call Sambhoga or enjoyment body. We can't see that. Only beings who have clear view, pure view, can see this aspect. But it represents all our positive qualities fully complete. This is why we can connect with that. Everybody likes to have a Buddha statue here and there and remind them of whatever qualities it reminds you of, whether that's love, compassion, peace, whatever qualities. And then we study what all those bits and pieces mean. And he's sitting on a jewel throne, and there's lots of jewels there, again representing realizations. So that's what it means to wear your problems like earrings, you know, like ornaments, because it's through our problems that if everything's going along smoothly, we don't see any need to change anything, do we? But it's only when problems come we say, I don't like it, I want to change, what do I have to do? And of course, the Buddha says, you've got to transform your mind. Okay? Not transform everything out there, transform everything in here. As your compassion for others grow, you increasingly come to feel that it is unbearable when any other being experiences suffering. So this is what is part of training in the Bodhisattva path, the Bodhisattva being the one who says, yep, I want to become a Buddha because I can see the suffering in the world, can't bear it, can't bear my own suffering, can't bear others' suffering, and I want to work for the relief of all that suffering. So we have, when we do Guru Puja, we have this series of verses that reflect on this condition. So LC 89, for those that come on for Guru Puja, says, 88. Having abandoned the mind that views this unbearable prison of cyclic existence as a beautiful park. So I worked for many, many years, 15 now, with the Liberation Prison Project, so visiting prisons and so forth. And what Lama Zopa Rinpoche would say, the people who are in the physical prison know they're in prison. The rest of us are in prison and we don't know it. In other words, a mental prison, that we put the constraints and limitations on ourselves. We put boundaries for what we're capable of. Whereas the Buddha said, you know, get rid of those. So we think this world is as good as it gets. Again, the Buddha said no. So what is an actual prison of our own making, which is the analogy, we think as a beautiful park. You know, of course we enjoy food, music, beautiful perfumes, even though they've got terribly unbeautiful names. I don't get why they're called addiction and opium and poison. Or maybe they're truthful. Maybe poison is more true. And then, you know, I got given a bottle of samsara. This was before I ordained, of course, because, you know, we don't use perfume. But a friend gave me a bottle of samsara, and I said, no, thanks, I've got enough. You know, why would you bottle samsara? In other words, suffering. It means suffering. Why bottle that? Anyway, I seek your blessings to hold the 3 trainings as the treasure of the Arya's wealth. In other words, those beings, Aryas are those beings who have a direct perceptual realization of emptiness. In other words, they see reality as it is, not as our mind elaborates on top. We elaborate, you know, if it's, say, at someone we like, we elaborate all their, you know, gorgeous qualities until they move in. And then we start to see faults. And of course, it's their faults, not mine. And you know what happens as already. So, and then if we don't like someone, we exaggerate, like it goes from maybe one little thing that irritated us, but all of a sudden we don't like the way they walk, they dress, they talk, you know, we go too far in the other direction. So the Aryas see directly reality as it is, neither going to extremes. So the 3 higher trainings then is a training in ethical conduct. And as I said in our motivation, that we've practiced pure ethics in past lives. We've refrained from doing harm to beings with our speech, with our bodily actions, not killing, not stealing, not engaging in sexual misconduct, etc. And so, you know, we've done the opposites. We've saved lives. We've practiced generosity, and we've practiced respect in all our relationships and so on, and kept vows purely. And so then the ethical training, particularly in relation to 7-point mind training, what we're doing here, is to discipline the mind, to not let the mind go for a free ride all over the place, which an untrained mind does, because we weren't taught, or at least I wasn't, at a young age, how to harness the energy of the mind for good. I wasn't even taught how to harness the energy of the mind for anything. So maybe we're all in the same boat there, but that we can, you know, have that energy. And with something like anger, take away the anger, and that energy is still there. And we can, that can be a forceful energy for good, but not hate, not anger, not conflict, but very powerful energy. And this was what we do in a lot of our Dharma practices, is what we're training to do, to intervene before it becomes manifest, you know, when it's still that latent, slight irritation. As soon as we can shine the light of awareness and say, I'm not going there, then we're practicing ethical discipline of the mind. I think they should. It would be a good idea to introduce this into schools as a, not having a Buddhist trappings. It doesn't have to have any trappings, but just how does the mind work? I mean, it's happening more and more in terms of what we're learning from mind scientists about the workings of the mind and how to work with the mind. So ethical conduct and concentration, again, it would benefit every school teacher if all kids learn to focus their mind. In other words, calm abiding meditation, getting your mind calm and focus there. So one of my friends many years ago, who was a Steiner teacher, decided she would wait. I mean, she was teaching little kids, right? And she thought, I'll just wait till the class settles, 45 minutes. It'd be better to actually sit them down and show them how to settle. Parents as well. I love Thich Nhat Hanh. One of the things I love about Thich Nhat Hanh, many things, but they did say go into the breathing work. And so one of the teachers, meditation teachers at Vajrayana Institute, where I was, well, she was a student. She used to come along to meditations, and then she started teaching in her kids' school. But whenever they were being ratty at the end of the day, instead of what I got was go to your room and don't come out until you're in a better mood. They got sent to the breathing room. Just go in and breathe, relax, be at ease. It is, isn't it? It's much more spacious. In effect, you're doing this. Yeah, in effect, behaviorally, it's the same thing, but the message that's going with it is very, very different. So we can transform, develop concentration and wisdom, because we need that focused mind to develop wisdom, which is our capacity to analyze, to investigate. Again, this would be very helpful in a school setting, just those three things, teach kids that. Anyway, for ourselves to train those, which is the Arya's wealth, it's the wealth. So those trainings are the wealth of those who see reality exactly as it is, with no elaborations, no big stories on top. The mind just being in the zone, actually. And thereby to uphold the victory banner of liberation. In other words, that's how we free ourselves from our suffering. Okay. All right. So practicing bodhicitta, so this awakening mind, or chitta meaning mind, and bodhi. So awakening mind is the mind that's moving towards Buddhahood. It's a mind of great compassion. It's a mind of altruism. It's a mind oriented towards others. How can I help? Exchanging yourself for others means, instead of looking after number one all the time, and how the world's affecting me, and they do this, and open your eyes, open yourself out to others. It says, Lama Zopa says, renouncing yourself. I find that a heavy word until we have to unpack what that means. And it means, as we've been talking about in previous weeks, renouncing that mind that just cherishes the self, that really just, I want to have the most comfortable everything. Even I remember one of my bosses at a Dharma center, when problems were coming, he says, I just want to go back to my comfortable life. And she's like, well, you've chosen the wrong job then, haven't you? Director of the Dharma center, it's not having a comfortable life. Of course, we all want to go back to our comfortable lives, but the Buddha said, well, we won't progress very far. We'll just keep doing the same thing over and over again. Renouncing yourself rather than others, rather than pointing fingers outwards. Cherishing others more than yourself. So here when it says cherish others more than ourselves, so it's more than just ourselves, let me say, but we do include ourselves in that. So if we include ourselves as one of 8 billion plus humans inhabiting this world system, suddenly we've got a different perspective. I'm just one of all those having similar experiences, maybe different physical experiences, environmental experiences, but certainly the same mental experiences, right? All subject to the same types of sicknesses and so forth. And if we take that further to all the beings living on the planet, we humans are 0.01% of all the beings on this planet. That gives you perspective, doesn't it? It's really minuscule. And that's just this planet, not looking at other world systems. So that, it's good to see in terms of numbers how, why just focus on me and mine. Of course, we focus on our families, we focus on our community. We might go further than that. My fellow Australians, however, we have concepts, but it's about mine. So it's saying even they're unrelated, even they've got nothing to do with, then focus on them. Focus on the parts of the world where there's tragedy happening. Where's all the Libya, is it? Turkey, where all the floods going on. Libya, isn't it? At the moment, Libya. So I can think, having been driven, not me driving, through floods for 24 hours in India not so long ago, you can see that damage of that, and I've got a graphic picture of that. And this is even worse, because I've got, like, I was reading this morning, 4 times the rainfall of Sydney in a year, in one day. Inconceivable, isn't it?
Wouldn't that be sort of too much like depression, though? Because all you would do is look around the world and do that forever.
No, it's the opposite.
From when the Buddha was there, when he was a prince, when he came Buddha.
Yeah.
Yeah, the world he lived in there was all, there's no hospitals, there's no social life, there's no nothing. So if you have to be poor, it's pretty bad news.
That's correct. Yeah.
Our society in the West, about 15% of the OECD, we've got, social welfare.
Absolutely.
And someone to feed you for hungry, food banks, all this sort of stuff. But
we've got.
We look at it in the world. You can turn the TV on. There's always something bad happening. Some guys killing the other guy.
I know. Yeah.
Or whatever. Yeah. But all we did all day long was just look at that negative stuff. But to me, that. Yeah, you want to try and throw it around the other way and say, what a beautiful world it would be if we're all peaceful and did the right thing.
That's exactly what we're actually talking about. We're on the same page here. Yeah. So when we say we look at what's happening in the world, it's to use it to see exactly what you're saying. What's your name?
Ricky.
Exactly what you're saying, with that we want to turn it around to say, now, if we had amazing how it would be if we had a peaceful world, we wouldn't be having it. If the world elements were in balance,
wouldn't make nuclear weapons.
Exactly, because as the Dalai Lama said, peace in the world starts with peace in our own mind. If all children learn meditation at an early age, in one generation would have world peace, because the peaceful mind and you looking at and positing what it would be like with peace in the world is exactly that. That's already bringing your mind to that peaceful state, a much more powerful state, isn't it? And it's not depressing, it's uplifting. So we're not using it to get ourselves depressed. We're using it to say, hey, what can I do? I can't change earthquakes. I can't change floods. I can't do those things. But I can see the environmental effects of all that and do something in my backyard. So, and that we use it to inspire us to do what we can. And my backyard's looking gorgeous now. It's been having a zhuzh and there's flowers everywhere, and I feel so fortunate to think what abundance there is as a result of that work in the sandy soil of Perth. It's beautiful. So yeah, it is a very good point, and this is why these teachings were originally passed on in secret to those whose minds were ready, in that not wanting people to get depressed. It's sort of like you jump into the deep end of the pool and you haven't learned to swim yet. So it is advanced teachings in that way. Okay, so the next one. Okay, continuing on with this quote from Rinpoche. When you have a problem, another practice you can apply is a Mahayana thought transformation practice of giving, taking and giving, Tonglen. So we have talked about this before. Visualizing taking on all the suffering of other beings into your heart. So heart chakra, not our physical heart, we don't do anything with that. And then imagine giving everything, your body, possessions, happiness, and merit to others. Of course, you're not actually literally doing this, but you're thinking about, if I could, I would. The Buddha couldn't take on everybody's suffering Jesus Christ couldn't take on everyone's suffering, even though he was nailed to the cross to take on the sufferings of the world. Didn't work, did it? But did he have a heart of great compassion? Yes. Did the Buddha have a heart of great compassion? Yes. So the wish to, and that following in that saying, you know, when it says the heart chakra, it's actually saying this self-cherishing mind that forms like a hard rock at our heart that prevents us being, prevents us opening our heart towards others. And so we think about, if I could, I would take on the suffering. So I see the suffering in the world, and what I can say is, may you be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. So this is in the prayer of the four immeasurable thoughts, immeasurable compassion. May you be free of the suffering. Am I causing you to be free of the suffering? No, but I wish that you were. I take on whatever responsibility I can to free others from suffering. You know, when we see someone in pain, and we can do something about it, or we can see an anxious animal, or whatever the circumstance, we naturally do that. And so it's saying, you know, build on that energy. And imagine giving everything, your body, your possessions, your happiness, your merit, which is all the positive energy you've accumulated, giving that to others. Of course, again, we're not literally giving our body, we're not literally giving our possessions. We might, if we have some possessions to offer. We can well be giving others happiness. You know, when you chat with someone, well, it happens to me quite a bit because I'm just like this. When I go out and about, like yesterday, I mean, this woman, she just wanted to know where we were because she was wanting to have somewhere to come to. And it's sort of like a walking advertisement when you're dressed in these robes. That's why we have business cards, so that we can give them to people when they ask where you are. And just to see that, you know, taking time with her, not thinking, oh, I'm too busy to take time with you. Because I've learned when I go out that I maybe ask questions, and I have made my mind up in my life to be of benefit to others. Am I perfect at it? By no means. But practice the little things I can do. So in that way, I can think, oh, yes, you know, that was a happy connection that we've had. And if I can have more and more happy connections, you know, as with the back over east, the woman in the chemist too, they just started having a conversation when she joined the transaction, and had a good day, how's your day going, and smiled, and she said, you're the first person this morning who's treated me like a human being. She had tears in her eyes. That was tragic. It was Sydney, just context. Haven't experienced that in Perth. Everyone too busy to actually see this as a human being. And of course, as soon as you stop treating people as human beings, what do? Put in a machine to replace them. I'm not quite sure it happened that way. When we keep people in their jobs. And your merit, so all your positive energy, of course, we can share that with others. And, you know, the more we share that with the environment around us, it has transformative effects. When we go on pilgrimage to sacred sites where you know, in the Buddhist practice is places where, say, the Buddha meditated, and like Shravasti, where the Buddha, so at the moment the Theravadan monks and nuns are in the rains retreat still, so where he meditated for 25 rains retreats. So that's 3 months, 3 weeks, 3 hours, 3 days every year. And you go there and your mind is still 2,600 years later. It's affected the environment. So in the same way, the creation of nuclear bombs, we know, affects the environment. That comes from a rather disturbed mind. Warfare, we see it. We see how the different states of mind impact the environment. by what we do, by what energy we're putting into that space, and so forth. I remember when I was a kid, I don't know if they still do that. I remember watching this program where they put headphones on the tomatoes and zucchinis and veggies and played the nice soothing music, and they grew bigger than the other ones. Did someone do that? Had an impact. So you never know. Okay. So this is about transforming our mind to wish to benefit others, you know, so we can see the atrocities in the world. And of course we want that to stop as soon as possible. You know, again, the Dalai Lama many years ago, we have a practice of the Compassion Buddha, Chenrezig, and the Dalai Lama wrote a what we call motivation, like intention for that when we're doing that practice. And in the context of Tibet, said, may peace arise in the Chinese leaders, not the ordinary people. So there's more Buddhists in China than by far than anywhere else, like 40 million in China. But arise in the minds of the Chinese leaders, because again, we could apply that to all the world leaders today of whatever level, because if their minds are in peace, they're going to be motivated to work towards a peaceful world. Whereas, unfortunately, we seem to have more of the opposite going on. As the Buddha said, these are degenerate times in terms of degeneration of the mind, and we see that in terms of all the increasing mental health issues that are arising, degeneration of the body, all these. We've got even how many strains of COVID do we have now? We've got a new one coming around in Australia. That's where I read this one that last year, COVID was the third greatest cause of death. So even though it's just become part of our, you know, plethora of diseases you can contract, it's still causing a lot of deaths in the world.
So religious affiliation.
Yeah.
In this context, in 1970, it was about 9% Christian, now it's 43. So.
Yeah, it's dropped across the board. It's true. Yeah.
So lots of people now.
Yeah. It is like we have a program in our organisation for the 16 guidelines, and it's ethics education program. And I remember the Guardian doing a review of this. It was sort of it'd been worked on for years, but in 2005 when it started people being trained, and the Guardian said it's a great training, you know, ethics education training. The shame is that we need something because of unethical, like just.
Well, lots of it comes like charity, and the Christian world comes from religion.
Yeah.
Looking after the people and arms from the poor is something given like the
Yep. Yep.
I
think it's the same.
That all goes out that window. No religion. Everyone thinks about themselves, then probably it's going to be the government has to take up the slacks, the taxes. That sounds like the wrong thing.
However, that still remains an ethos in all religions. Actually, the practice of generosity. Actually, it's increasing. Yeah, Buddhism is increasing. There we go.
Yeah, it's fine in Australia. You're around 1%.
I don't know. What
the percentage is about 4%.
Yeah. So it is true that in Australia it's been the fastest growing religion for a while, Buddhism. It doesn't mean it's the biggest.
No, it's tiny compared to anything else.
Yeah. But when we look at all religions at their root, have very much similar values and ethics. Yeah.
I was just wondering if they were going real sort of fear.
We are in a
elements to some of the ethic that he mentioned, and
Yeah.
things like
So-
charity, draw body in a religion.
We are in a world where, as you said, less people are engaging in a, let's say, faith tradition, religion, so
Yeah.
forth, but not like the last census that I remember, but not a sense of spirituality. And that, I think that's what connects us. The Buddha said there were 84,000 paths to enlightenment. Just some are faster than others. But it depends on our predisposition. So if people's predisposition has changed away from formal religions to their own sense of spirituality, as long as that is supported to develop. Because if you don't have that support to develop that, which is what churches and temples and mosques and things do.
38% of Australians have no religion, where there are no spiritual. No faith.
Yeah, it's true.
So they're just straight out, you know.
But you wait till they're facing death.
Oh, yes.
People suddenly find a deeper meaning. It's unfortunate that it takes that time, but nonetheless. So here we can say, we, on the other hand, are very interested to what can I do to transform my mind? So, and because of the state of the world, it's needed more and more, but because of the state of the world, it's harder as well. So, often we beat ourselves up for what we don't do. I think just the fact we're all here together is amazing in this world, Next one. Many other beings have the same or similar problems as you do. So when we have particular problems or illnesses, say a cancer or back pain, I think a lot of us can relate to back pain, or problems in relation to work, in relation to the family, and so forth, we're more likely to have compassion for others. We lend an ear to our friends or so forth because we're in the same boat, or we've been in the same, we know what that is. So it's really good to take those specific problems and know what that we know what the suffering is from our own side, and wishing for others to be free of that is something that we know deeply what that suffering is. Not their suffering, but what it is for us, and therefore we want others to not experience that suffering themselves. So practice taking upon yourself the experience of those particular problems. So we do these visualizations of, if I could, I would take on the sufferings, but we really need to be specific in that and not just this warm, fuzzy, global feeling, because it's more powerful when we connect it with our own particular forms of suffering, as well as the suffering and causes of all other sentient beings. So that's the more general one, but we start with the specific. If I know somebody's got mental health issues and I have mental health issues, maybe not the same ones, and I can say, yeah, it's tough. Or this is how I got through it, or, we can be compassionate in that way. So then imagine that whatever problem your experience is due to willingly take upon yourself the problems of others. In other words, your practice is working. If you're willing to, if I can, I'll take on the problems of others, or I'll at least listen to them. I'll, share my experiences with them. And in that way, I'm not literally taking on the problems because I can't, but I'm finding ways to connect with them. And this is the practice at work. It's not just sitting there with our visualizations, which is also good, but how do we enact that when we encounter problems and difficulties in other people's lives? Do we just say, oh, I don't want to hear about your pain, goodbye? It happens. Hearing about your pain makes me feel pain. I don't want pain, goodbye. Or Do we say, yeah, that sucks. Tell me more about it, or how are you going with that? Any ways I can help? So this is our natural compassion towards others, because we know what it is to suffer. Even when we don't have those specific sufferings, we know we don't like it. We know we don't like it. And so we can have empathy for others in the same boat. And ultimately, it says, thereby relieving them of all suffering. Of course, we can't. However, in this way, you experience your problems for the benefit of others. So we can't. But there are beings who are capable of doing that. For example, when Chökyi Rinpoche was alive, and he had an aggressive stomach cancer, and people said, how come you've got such a cancer? Like, you're a great holy being, you know. I mean, as I say, even the Dalai Lama gets colds. He got cancer himself, treatment and so forth, and his knees are no good, etc. He's got a human body just like the rest of us. And so Chökyi Rinpoche was asked, how come you've got such an aggressive stomach cancer? And he says, what do you expect when you're taking on the problems of the world? So there's an indication there that it couldn't take away the problems of the world, but he was also sent by the Dalai Lama to go down to Antarctica, not when he had stomach cancer before, to go to Antarctica and do these practices to help realign the planet against the imbalance of the elements. So did that solve all the problems? No, but it may have minimized or delayed some of the experiences that we're having now. So he went down on it was a Russian, like a working, it wasn't a cruise line, so a cargo or whatever one. So he went down and oh no, there were some tourists on board. As I remember, he went down and he put, we actually put Buddhist statues overboard. You know how you're not allowed to put something overboard from a ship? We had to do that at night. Didn't get good. But the captain actually invited him to dinner and actually hung prayer flags. We have these prayer flags like out here, and he hung them from the mast, and that's also not something that's done. But now they hang in the museum on the ship. So, hey, we don't know. But when they got to Antarctica and they got off, the tourists were going that way, and Chökyi Rinpoche went this way to do the practices, and a whole bunch of them came to see what he was doing. So they got very attracted to what he was doing too. Anyway, that was to benefit the world. And they say, this is what we should be asking these lamas, to help us. Well, indigenous people can do that, the rainmakers and so forth. So this is one of the cities or powers that is apparently fairly easy to do if you're in that league, to have control over the elements. So when we see indigenous people have those powers, we can think they have that same connection to the elements, that are able to work with the powers of the elements. So we need to be asking them more and more to work with this imbalance. Well, we are, the bush fire management of the indigenous people have, and now they're showing the fire brigades how to do burn-offs in the sort of low ignition burn, so that you save the land and you save all the beings. It's amazing bodhisattvas. Okay. Next one. When you are able to think like that, you are experiencing your experiencing your problems for other living beings. You transform your experience of those problems into virtue. So we're not saying that you're actually taking on their problems, but you transform your mind by wishing to take on their. So it's about the power of the mind. Again, when I was in hospital many years ago, and Chökyi Rinpoche had just come to Australia, and he was first time, and he was teaching in Sydney on the 7.9 training on this text. And I was in hospital, missing out, but I didn't have to imagine the suffering because I got given the instruction to do this training. I didn't have to imagine the suffering of others around me because in a hospital you're surrounded by people who are suffering, and they were all suffering much more than me. They were repeat, they were people who were regularly in hospital with breathing difficulties, and this was like my one and only time in my adult life. So anyway, so that he said to focus on this training really gave me brought me out of my pity me, or me missing out, to actually, well, I'm connected. And by the way, a student was bringing in the recording of the teachings before Zoom. So he was bringing that in, and so I'd listen to the teachings, and then I'd be able to do the practice and lie in bed. All the best conditions possible for the practice. And it transformed my experience. But I also do wonder about the woman next to me who was highly agitated 24/7. She'd have the television on 24/7. She'd be pushing the buzzer 24/7 until the nurses stopped coming. So the rest of us pushed our buzzers out of compassion for her. We didn't need, but that she did. And then they realised what we were doing, so it didn't come for us either. I had to, if so there really is an emergency, what to do? Yeah, there wasn't. But anyway, so at the end of the first week, she said, "Will you pray for me?" And I thought, well, so much for my practice. I've been doing that all week. It helped me put my mind in a better space. So I said, "Are you Christian?" And she said, "Yes." And I said, "Well, talk to God." She says, "I've been ringing God up and he's just not answering." I said, "Well, he's pretty busy. Try a bit harder, just keep trying." So those sorts of situations, I can think I'm in hospital and I'm missing out on what I want to be at. Or I can think, well, this is the opportunity to do my practice right here and actually get the advice from the Lama I was missing out the teachings of. I got the teachings. So there. And then I got to come to here in High River and do the other teachings I missed out. Because he said I was good to fly. Only just, but that was enough. That's all I needed. Because you are experiencing your problem on behalf of all those with similar problems, as well as those with other problems, your experience becomes great purification and a very skillful means to accumulate extensive positive potential. So by way of the vastness of our motivation that says, I'm not just doing this for myself, I'm doing it for as many beings as I can visualize, those that I'm already close to, those I know who are having a similar suffering, or maybe I don't even know them. So all of this empowers your practice, and the practice of purification, which is interesting because at the same time, Chökyi Rinpoche said to me, better than eons of hot hells, to experience this illness in this life, because I can make sense of it, because I have all the best conditions of the medical support available and everything else, and still had the Dharma, even when I forgot I still had the Dharma. So, this empowers our purification just by having such a vast mind and a vast intention. So when we do, for example, the Vajrasattva practice here, which we do regularly on a Sunday afternoon once a month, and we visualize all the other beings on earth, let's just limit ourselves to this world system, in human form, whether alive or dead, arising in human form and engaging in this practice along with us. Are they doing that actually? No. But I'm visualizing as if they were able to also use this practice to purify them. We can imagine them, someone we know who's suffering, or even think all the Ukrainians or the Libyans, whatever, at our heart chakra, and that they're receiving the benefit of the practice as we do that. So this is, again, it is helping us accumulate a lot of positive potential, which we call merit. We talk about our field of merit, like we're cultivating an amazing field of positivity. So we can extend that further if we can, thinking about other world systems, other beings that exist, even though we don't know who or what they are. But if we think about, all the beings that live on the earth, in the earth, and I keep thinking about this book I read, which I think was called Radical Earth, but I looked that up this morning and I thought, no, it doesn't sound like the right description. Anyway, something like that maybe it's called Living Earth. Maybe it's Living Earth. And it talks about their discovering, further they go down into the earth below, more and more beings. And so we say that any being that has a mind, it has Buddha nature, has the potential to realize everything there is to be realized, has a potential for infinite generosity, patience, compassion, loving kindness, wisdom, and so forth. We all have this potential, So thinking that way down there, kilometers and kilometers into the earth, they've discovered more and more living beings that they didn't know were there before. And then, of course, in the ocean, well, gazillions, it's trillions, many, many beings. So we can think of that and use that as a really skillful way to accumulate more and more extensive positive potential. In fact, we're doing what Lama Yeshe said, think big. We're making our minds are not small. Our minds are not physical, so they're limitless. We have limitless capacities. Body, bit limited. I'm never going to be, sort of world-class tennis player. I accept that. But can I visualize playing the most amazing shots? Absolutely. We can do that. We can all do that, right? Or whatever else we want to visualize. We have the capacity to do that. Okay, next one. The number of beings for whom you experience the suffering is infinite. So you develop infinite virtue. We also get a sense of interdependency, interconnection with many, many more beings than we normally maybe have in our mind to think about. So the fact that we are all interdependent, science tells us now, our own experience in the world, COVID told us that, this tiny little micro virus that can infect a whole world system tells us about our interconnectedness, if nothing else. But, we can see this in absolutely everything, how interdependent we were. When we were looking previously at thinking that all, because we've had countless lives, all beings have been our mother at some point, but the kindness that beings show to us, even when not our mothers, think of all the beings that are related to us, just my clothes. How many beings went into producing just a one set of clothes or just a one meal? If I start to unpack that, it's sort of limitless. How many beings just for that one meal, for that one set of clothes, let alone everything else. Totally interdependent, not independent. Okay. Well, So when we do, for example, thinking about all the beings on every atom of the earth, when we do prostrations like we did at the beginning here, we can visualize that as we're going down, we're covering as many atoms of the earth, and as we're coming up, we're bringing up all those beings up into higher and higher rebirths out of the lower realms, which is more and more intense suffering. Bring them up, let's say, to the human realm. We can visualize that, and that they be free of their sufferings. And so then it said the more atoms of the earth you cover, and you think down to the other side of the earth. I'm not sure what the other side to Perth is. Does anyone know? Anyway, the other side. And that we're helping all of those beings to be free of their suffering. So we can be incredibly expansive with our minds. Okay. So that's the end of that point. Any further comments, questions, observations? Okay, we'll go on to the next one. So this is line 3 of this same verse, of the same point 3 of transforming adverse circumstances in the path to enlightenment. So it says, apply meditation immediately at every opportunity. So here we're talking about it not just being when we're sitting in meditation or lying in meditation, walking meditation, doing meditation, but apply at every opportunity in our day-to-day. Just get this quote here. So Sage Chulbu, who was the direct disciple of Geshe Chökyi, who composed this text, said, when adverse circumstances unexpectedly strike, train in the 2 awakening minds right there and then. 2 awakening minds, the mind of wisdom and the mind of compassion. If you are struck with leprosy or a severe infectious disease, if you are lynched by a crowd, beaten up, robbed, or attacked with weapons, or if you simply fail to meet your desired conditions, think how the vast universe contains infinite cases like your own and generate compassion for those enduring those sufferings. So that's what we've just been looking at. Following this, reflect, this perpetrator of harm has been my spiritual teacher for training in the awakening mind a practice of forbearance or patience, and has thus been most kind to me. When an intense, unbearable affliction arises, so anger, desire, craving, jealousy, pride, because of attachment and anger, contemplate as before and take them upon yourself. So here we say, if our anger arises, so we can think about that in terms of someone else's anger. Thank you very much, I've got enough of my own. But we can turn that anger on the anger at itself. So we've got to get angry at something, get angry at the anger, because we don't want to get angry at all because that disturbs our mind. But if we look at that irritation arising in our mind and realize that, we can actually diffuse the situation before it comes to full-blown rage, for example. If we retain this practice of changing all circumstances into the path, we shall automatically be purifying ourselves of all obstacles. In other words, just like me with the pneumonia, just being reminded, I had to be reminded, it didn't come automatically, to transform that into the path. And so that became an opportunity for practice. Couldn't do much else. At the same time, I was doing the Nyondro, I hadn't finished of prostrations, and I thought, if you break one day, you have to start again from 1. And I at least got to 50,000, if not more by then. We have this practice. And so there I was in in the hospital with my drip in my arm going, oh, I can prostrate, sort of making my best opportunity to do that. So I was lucky that, because, when you're in hospital and you're sharing with others, you have a curtain that come around. So I'd get up early in the morning and I put the curtain around going, this is my meditation room now. This is my practice room. And it was early enough that somebody wasn't going to be coming in and pulling back the curtain and so forth. So I had this little quiet time. I thought, I've got my own meditation, just with the curtain around. Okay. Purifying ourselves of all obstacles and the seeds of past wrongs. This is where we talk about karma, that we have these karmic imprints on our mind. So the ones where we've done harm in the past and has created this mass of negative karma, we say. A negative brings a negative, a positive brings a positive, which means that we can experience that, say, as pneumonia or as war or, terrible things that happen in this life. But if we purify ourselves of that original cause, in other words, engage powerfully in these practices, then those seeds have no more potency in our mind. And at the same time, we're accumulating merit, the virtuous states of mind. So when we don't have to sit with that and just wait till those terrible conditions happen. There's nothing fatalistic about the Buddha's teachings. It's like everything, as the Buddha said, there's no negative karma that can't be purified. In fact, what the Buddha is saying is everything, even you being a mass murderer, even you've sent people to war, really heavy duty stuff. All of that with a mind of strong regret for those actions can be purified. The key is having the mind of strong regret. The key to that is recognizing this is harmful, this is not okay. Of course, those of us following the Buddhist path and the other parts of other faith traditions, follow that of not wanting to do harm to others. But here it's saying, well, we've done that in the past. I just have to look at this life. I can't count the number of flies I would have killed on those sticky things that we used to have. We used to have in the middle of our kitchen table. How gross was that? So it didn't get on your food. So you'd be sitting there with all these. And as a child, of course, I didn't know there was anything wrong with that because that's what you did. And when I think about it, really terrible. And cockroaches. Of course, we use mitigation. But when I think about the cockroaches stuck in those little boxes, and little tiny feet stuck to the sticky and imagine dying like that. That's a very slow, awful death, isn't it? Can't move. Anyway, so purifying off all those past actions and at the same time accumulating merit, because we're basically detoxing the mind. And so that sort of negative states of mind become less and less, and our turning our mind to more positive states become more and more. Whether the situation seems conducive to Dharma practice or not, it will be used solely for developing the mind. So whatever situation we're in, and we won't, if we think of using it for Dharma practice, in other words, having the right motivation for whatever we do, for whatever we say, for whatever we think in that situation, in a very difficult situation, we have an opportunity there to use it. Go around your curtain, your meditation. Just as pouring kerosene on a wood fire causes the flames to increase, likewise, once we have lit the flame of the awakening mind. So when we talk about fire in this way, I always think fire. No, we don't want to do that. We're heading towards bushfire season. Do not want to do that. But here, that the flame is talked about as the flame of wisdom. So it's saying we're increasing our wisdom to know what to do in all situations or difficult situations, that then serve to strengthen our compassion, our altruistic mind, rather than seeing it as a problem. So we have, like, for example, here as part of the statues that are going up here, there's this, under the Buddha statue, there's this aura, which is flames, and that represents the wisdom mind. So it goes around like an aura around the Buddha's statues, particular Buddha statues, but particularly we call them wrathful Buddha statues. So the Buddha, is a peaceful one. Chenrezig is a peaceful one. Tara is peaceful. In general, there is a wrathful aspect. And they say, for those who can't be pacified by peaceful means, they need more wrathful means. So it can look like anger, like a mother saying to, or father, or anything, saying to a child. So here, this one here with the orange and red and gold. Yeah. So, a mother or a parent or, responsible adult will call out to a child who looks like they're in danger on the road, say, get off the road. It looks like anger, probably more likely fear, but it's, if you said, oh, darling, I think it would be a good idea if you got off the road right now, that they'd meet with a mishap. So we use these that's what it means by wrathful means. Got to get their attention. Wake up. You do raise the voice. So we use that. And so we have in our Buddhist teachings, particularly in Tibetan Buddhism, so this big statue here that's covered over is, as I mentioned, Guru Rinpoche, who established Buddhism in Tibet. So previously, in the whole history lesson, Chantrit Shita had been sent there to establish Buddhism and was not able to subdue the disturbing wrathful forces. And so he said, you've got to get Guru Rinpoche to come. He'll be able to do it. So he did that, not by, so there were, say, anyway, negative energies. So the Buddha didn't do this by telling them off. He did that by befriending it and, sort of bringing them into the fold, if you like, and made them the Dharma protectors. So they're fearsome looking. They're not bad. They're actually the forceful means to protect, particularly to protect the Dharma, to protect Dharma centers. I think in the Christian tradition, when I was living in Paris, and I remember going to Chartres Cathedral, and they had all the gargoyles. So I think the gargoyles are like our Dharma protectors. They're protecting the space of where people are engaging in virtuous practices. So that's like that. So once we have this compassion and wisdom, everything that arises serves to strengthen that as an opportunity for us to put it into practice in daily life and see how that goes. Oh, I have, people used to come when I was at over east at Vajrayana Institute, and students would come in and go, wow, I feel much better. I'm not reacting to the boss so much anymore. It's not being a doormat. It's just not being so reactionary, and that you can feel confident in your own resilience, your own inner strength, your own inner wisdom. Okay, so we'll leave it there for today. And we dedicate the prayers so that all the energy of positive energy is not lost, and that continues to grow in our minds and the minds of all beings. So page 16, third verse down. Through the merits of these virtuous actions, may I quickly attain the state of the Guru Buddha and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the precious body-mind, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. And then page 19, pray for the long life of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. The wish-granting, wish-fulfilling jewel, source of every single benefit and happiness in this world, to the incomparably kind Tenzin Gyatso I beseech, may all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. On page 23, long life prayer for Tenzin Osa, who will be in Bendigo, teaching from the 9th of, I think it's the 9th, yes, 9th of December. And tickets aren't available yet, but John said to me, keep a look on the FPMTA website. It'll be announced any second. I've been looking every day. Lord of Dharma, who in accordance with the various dispositions of those to be subdued, makes clear in the light of your well-spoken advice the sacred Ganden tradition, essence of Buddhist teachings. O foremost and holy Lama, to you who are supreme, O Lama, please, please live long. And then on the separate sheet, a prayer for the swift return of Lama Zopa Rinpoche. I also saw that his sister and those up in Laudo, where Lama Zopa Rinpoche came from, are building a stupa for his swift return. And I was looking at it because I was thinking about, Bunbury have to build a stupa. And I went, look how quickly they're building their stupa. They have many experienced people. Peerless teacher, an assembly of children of the victorious one, Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas, victorious Losang father and sons, together with your lineage, all the objects of refuge of the infinite lands, please now bestow the virtue and goodness to accomplish this prayer. In holding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teachings through explanation and practice, you wore the armor of patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable Venerable Guru, to you I make request. Sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, while striving exclusively for the welfare of the victorious one's teachings and mother living beings. You suddenly departed to peace. What a great loss. Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessings of the ocean of the three jewels and the great waves of the mind generation of the children of the victorious ones, may the smile of a reincarnation swiftly beam in glory for fortunate disciples. Thank you very much.